When you are a rock, life moves by at a slow pace. Relatively, at least. Until Siliconians had first contact, our lives seemed to move at just the right speed. But then we learned that most life isn't like us. That's actually an understatement. We're the only ones that the galactic community refers to as rocks. Other aliens live on planets that are reasonably similar, while our planet has what you would describe as a lot more metal and stone and lightning. Rather than being meat or even plants, which are apparently not too uncommon, having our core bodies be composed of primarily gallium arsenide and silicon doesn't make for the same kind of lives as our new alien friends. They have legs to walk and run around. We slowly shift mass from being a sphere that's waited to roll forward to a sphere that looks melted, so we stay in place. They eat meat and plants. We don't really eat, we function with electricity. Although I've been told, hey, you're the ones that eat electricity, so often that I've started to believe it myself. At our own pace, we got into a point where others decided to invite us to the rest of the galaxy, which was incredible. Since our existence was so centered around our planet, the idea of leaving to explore other ones wasn't just lofty. At first it sounded strange. But luckily, the ones who made first contact with us, a species called reptilians, were perfectly respectful and helpful for the process, despite our initial lack of excitement. This was something that they'd done a bunch of times before, of course. We received new knowledge and tech, and it spread across the planet at the speed of light. Most important, we easily adapted translators into our mass, so our electric zaps became galactic common. Excitement did develop, though. Once you see photos of everyone and everything else out there, oh wow. Planets that reflected because of how much water they had, rather than all the metal. Millions and millions of wild animals that came in any shape and size you could imagine. And of course, all the sapient, intelligent ones out there. Trillions of them. It was impossible to comprehend. The thing was, though, other species found their place and could manage a life somewhere if they wanted to go off planet. Siliconians, well, I mentioned at the start that we move at a slower pace. We're of average intelligence, and many of us have attended off-world universities, but they often end up coming back home. Having your resume picked out of a pile, whether it's for your first choice of job or even your last choice, is unlikely. Appendages. That's the biggest obstacle it comes down to. We can gain mass and shift it to create whatever appendages we might need, but it takes some effort, and delicacy is not our strong point. It never needed to be, and probably would have been detrimental. So, intelligent rocks as a species? Everyone was tripping over themselves to visit and study us, sure, but eventually we just turned into a novelty. When it came to being hired as anything from a scientist to a chef to a construction worker, there was always a species out there who was a better fit. They'd got on well enough without us so far. Why just hire someone smart who could do the job, when you could also get a co-worker who everyone could go to lunch with? A person who had hobbies in common with some of them? Who? Well, frankly, someone who didn't look like they had the intelligence of an inert pebble. Everyone can say they try not to judge, but the world is how it is. Our planet is unique, which means anything else alive on any other planet, no matter what organic compounds it's made from, will be smarter than their rocks. I don't mean to complain, but I've had more than my fair share of insults thrown my way. During my last year at college, towards the end of the year, I'd eventually started venting my frustrations to the friends I'd made there. They had plans. They had places to go all lined up, and here I was, staring at my computer screen day after day, either getting emails from people who said they'd decided to go with another candidate, or no response at all. My friends were supportive, but what could they do? I am what I am. Siliconians can take on a bunch of mass from a bunch of things across the periodic table, so we could at least be useful. Many got gigs as security guards and such. Everyone figured out really quick that it's hard to get past a giant boulder sitting in front of a door. And if you weren't in a rush, a shape-shifting rock could make the perfect dolly at a construction site. But it became apparent how limited our options were. I've even heard of some of us just shape-shifting into sparkly decor or sculptures. That's what we become after decades integrating into the galaxy. The pretty rock in the corner. So a year after I'd graduated with my degree in engineering, still living in that same city on Kotonala, I was surprised when my friend Kirk from back home sent me a message about a job opening on a ship. A real engineering job, on a ship transporting goods to and from a bunch of different planets. Kirk wasn't the adventurous type, and I think when I left, they were hoping to have tons of fun vicariously through me. And when I found myself at what looked like the end of the line, they'd taken it upon themselves to search far and wide for somewhere perfect for me. After reading the job description and what the crew was looking for, including the addendum that specified 4 preferred species for the role, with Siliconians list number 2, I texted Kirk. "Is this for real? I haven't read much about humans. How did you find this?" "It's for real. They just joined the galaxy a few years ago and I looked them up. I'll dump you a bunch of great data I scooped. Their planet is like 10 planets in one. It's kinda nuts. But I've seen vids of them everywhere. Apparently when the Yolun team made first contact with them, their entire species went, 'Space? Yes please.' And ships have been inundated with requests from them to work basically anywhere. But it's only been a few years, and they're already the ones doing the hiring? They took to spaceflight like homesick meteors. There's 10 billion of them, and once they had warp and FTL tech, there were millions of them flying off their planets with no hesitation. Not even with destinations in mind, just exploring, or to be tourists." A crinkle of static spread across the top of my sphere. They sound fun. Agreed. So, send them your resume and leave now. They're on Bruxo in Yariport. Wait, leave now? What do you mean? Unless you're talking about companies that have AIs to sort through resumes, humans just show up. That's what they do. If you roll up to their ship and ask about the job, the captain's much more likely to hire you. That felt so presumptive. Species were always more likely to hire someone already on planet, just for convenience sake. But Kirk said I should roll up to their door? Alright, I texted, leaving the town square, where I'd been people-watching, and making my way back to the port. Kirk wasn't stupid, and with access to the Galnet, and also all of the desire for adventure, and none of the bravery for it, he loved learning about other planets. And this project had the added bonus of having real purpose behind it. This was about my future, so I trusted his judgment. Putting a call into the port, I let them know I was taking off, and headed out into open space. Bruxo wasn't far, so I waited in line and programmed my ship to slip into the FTL lanes. And once I had gotten confirmation that it had gone smoothly, I set it to autopilot. I then sent off my resume, a process that I'd done so many times it barely used any brain cells, and pulled up the data Kirk had sent me to skim through it. Humans were meat-based, not surprising, able to see a narrow portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, but also had a sense of smell. And those appendages and graspers look awesome. I crushed a bit of envy that had started to form. There was a huge variety in the species, not just in appearance, in demeanor, personality, skills. Apparently there was a wide spectrum of humans that went from those content to sit in a room by themselves all day, to some who would likely start cracking if forced into that gig. Quite a rumbly history to them, though the last century or so before first contact didn't seem too bad. And the photos. Oh, Maker. There were so many photos of them everywhere with so many species. Adaptable. That was what really let a species thrive across the galaxy, being hugely adaptable. And they were. The more I read, actually, the more I was worried they were the exact opposite of me. Why would Kirk think they want a rock as a crewmate? Okay, shut up, brain. I'd be awesome at this job. And look how squidgy they are. They'd probably love to have someone bulletproof and laserproof on board, right? I crumbled some granite around in circles in my core, anxious and doubtful. Stressing about my arrival made time fly past, as I considered every way I could screw this up. Before too long, I made planetfall and found a place to dock my ship, checking the news and the map one last time for information about Yari. Seemed like a decent place. Not too high-end, not too dodgy. Pausing for a long moment, I tried to summon some of Kirk's confidence and put a call in to the spaceport, waiting as it rang. Yari Spaceport, how can I help you? Yeah, I'm looking into a job as an engineer for a ship that's docked here. I wanted to give them a call and ask if I could come by to say hi. It's, a human ship, I said, consulting the pronunciation guide one last time. Captain Tina DeWitt. Unfortunately, I can't give out that information, but if you'd like, I can contact them on your behalf. Oh, yes, sure, that'd be great. Please hold. Waiting patiently, I skimmed through the various popular entertainment options in the city. I'd been to this planet before, but always the other continent. I was surprised at the variety I found. Eventually, the line gave the telltale click of another presence. Captain DeWitt said that would be great. I'm sending you their dock location now. I sparked a bit, encouraged by the easygoing response. Fantastic, thank you. You're welcome. Have a good day. I checked out the spot they'd parked their ship, repeating D524 to myself a few times, and found how to get there. Shifting to sphere and going front heavy, I rolled off my ship, zapping the outside panel to lock it behind me. The place was bustling. Not surprising considering it was so populated, but not too crowded that I had to worry about rolling over someone. I had excellent control, of course, but when someone doesn't realize the rock rolling toward them is sentient, they'd be known to panic and make sudden movements that do the opposite of help. So, I kept a nice steady pace, spreading a loop of static from my top to my bottom to help catch the attention of those around me. It got me no shortage of curious looks. After an elevator ride and quite a bit of rolling, I came to a ship parked with D524 painted in largely in UV, and probably other colours on the ground. Hesitating, I looked over the spacecraft and found that it looked like something I'd be pretty happy to own myself. Larger, though, of course, and therefore something I'd never be able to afford. This was a business. They needed lots of room for cargo. Rolling across the ramp that led to the front door, I stopped and crunched anxiously. There was a small panel with a button, screen and speaker on it, that was presumably to announce yourself, and on top of that problem, it was a little bit high for me to reach. I had just decided the best move was to slowly shift mass to be able to knock on the giant door, when a clunk sounded, and it gradually slid open. Hey! Exclaimed the human standing across the threshold. You're Siliconian. The lady didn't mention that. Stefan is going to be psyched. Come on in. Thanks. I rolled in, checking out the ship. I'm captain of this rusty bucket, Tina said, motioning as she went over to another panel and pressed the button, holding it down to speak. Mr. Valenzuela, you have a gentleman caller, she sang into the speaker. I'm actually not male, I stammered. I don't really... Oh, no, I'm just fucking with him, she told me. What are you going on about? A deeper voice called back. There is a mineral composite here to speak to us about a certain opening in engineering. A pause. For real? Wow, alright, just give me a second. Tina turned back to me. Stefan is our mechanic. The rest of our crew is out and about running errands. We also have a Niltonian, a Minakan, and a Zalkinan. They've been with us since the start, and they're great. So, I only got one resume from your species so far, and that was just this morning. Zuklikik? Was that you? Yeah, I replied. You applied and just flew here immediately to knock on our door? You must think highly of us. My brain scrambled, trying to find a way to make it sound like I wasn't desperate. But you are desperate. A friend found the posting online, thought it was a great fit for me, I finally said. Your ship looks solid, and reviews online seem to think you've got a great business going. Reliable, affordable, knowledgeable. A company like ours is only as good as our customers say it is, she replied, reaching into a small kit bag hanging off her belt and taking out a tablet. She poked at it a bit. Your resume looks good. The gigs you've done cover a bunch of areas, which is cool. Tina lowered the tablet to look at me. Did you like Gertonala? I've never been more than 3 meters into the port. I did, I replied honestly. There was a huge forest nearby that I went rolling through a few times on its hiking trail. They have flowers there the size of this ship. That's crazy, Tina sighed. I've had 1 or 2 chances over the past 3 years to see plants like that. They're incredible. Both of us turned to my right as rapid footsteps clanged down the congregator's stairs at the other end of the room. Crap, how could I use those? A small mass structure to hook and roll? Stefan, meet Zerk Klikik. You were serious? You'd piss in my coffee if I lied about this, she shot back. I've never met a Siliconian before, Stefan told me, but everything I read about your species is utterly fascinating. So I've heard, I replied. It's pretty cool to be so well known. I'm just hoping I can still get a job like this. Stefan paused, staring at me. What do you mean, still? Well, I'm a rock, I noted. Kinda limits my options for employment. Dude, are you kidding? He asked, cocking his head. I'm not male. Oh, no, the translators are still figuring that one out, Stefan said, waving his hand at me. It doesn't mean male anymore. I call our toaster dude, and it isn't even AI. My grandparents were the last ones to use man and guys before they went the way of the dodo. But dude transcends gender, he told me, with an extravagant wave of his limb. I don't know what that means. Dodo, Tina said with a grin, leaning back against a wall. Stefan's face fell. Shit. He pressed several buttons on his watch, and Tina's watch beeped. Whenever he uses an idiom that an alien doesn't get, he owes me a credit, Tina explained to me, as Stefan crossed his arms and also leaned against the wall, though his posture was more slumped. It went from amusing to annoying, and I've been trying to break him of the habit, since we deal with so many other species. Been 6 months and he still slips up. I can appeal the decision, Stefan told me, before looking to Tina and pointing at her. She swatted at his finger. But only if it seems the person I'm talking to was able to deduce meaning from context. Yeah, that didn't happen, I said, sparks dancing over my surface in a chuckle. Ha, that's so cool, Stefan exclaimed, jumping up and down. Christ, can you not freak out? Tina asked, standing up straight and putting her hands on her hips. He's a potential colleague, not a gizmo you found in a toy store. Sorry, that was unprofessional, Stefan said, holding up his hands. Look, humans have this old joke that when we made computers, we ended up tricking a rock into thinking. But the universe actually did it first. You're like a living computer. I don't think I am, I said slowly. Tina let out a long breath. Getting back to business, Zook, you said something about being a Siliconian limiting your employment options? Well, yeah. I am horrible at grabbing and holding small things. Dexterity is not one of our gifts. I couldn't even press that speaker button. I mean, I could, but it'd take me, 5 minutes to stretch up there. What? Stefan jerked a thumb over his shoulder in the direction of the speaker. We can redesign these to accept jolts of current. Actually, you could do that. You're here for a job as an engineer, aren't you? I am, but you'd just let me change all the speakers on the ship? Why not? Tina asked. You'd use the elevator, since I doubt rolling upstairs is a fun time. We get a chair you could use for the dinner table. We're all aliens on this ship, so we change stuff all the time. She seemed genuinely confused, and I wasn't sure how to reply, so I didn't. Honestly, Zerk, You don't breathe, she said, counting off things on her fingers as she went. You don't eat, you don't shit, and you run on the same stuff that goes through the wires of practically every ship and home in the galaxy. You know how much money that'll save us? I guess that's true. You guess? Is this a serious issue? Siliconians having trouble getting jobs? Tina asked. A sizable current roared across my top in some mixture of frustration and confusion. Of course. Unless you want to be a door for a living. There's always someone better, someone taller, someone faster, someone with appendages. Someone who can do this job and then also not just look like the Geological Survey forgot one of their samples in the engineering bay. I realized I was getting a little worked up, and let go of some of my anger, shifting back a little. It just felt surreal that something that had encompassed my life, ever since I first looked into a life beyond college, was of negligible importance to them. I've seen videos of Siliconians finding one problematic wire in a disaster of an engine because of the difference in current, Stefan said slowly. You can learn coding languages, then run electricity into a computer, and with binary, code just by thinking it. Fuck. If something electronic blows on the ship, humans will be flaying around trying to find the fire extinguisher, and you'll be soaking up the power like fucking... He gestured sharply and then stopped, curling his hand into a fist and contorting his face, looking over to Tina. She smirked. Close call. If I keep making cultural references at this rate, you might as well not pay me, he groused. Stefan looked back to me. I was sitting still, not even sparking the slightest bit. I had seen the same videos he had. I knew what we were capable of. But I never heard anyone but a Siliconian talk about it with such a genuine mix of logic and emotion. Zook, are you a good engineer? Yeah, I answered. Are you a great engineer? I hesitated. I'm not sure. Stefan put his hands on his hips. Okay. Well, do you want to find out?